Did you know that some of the most toxic people in your life might be hiding behind a smile, a friendly conversation, or even a compliment? It's a harsh reality, but if you want to protect your peace and well-being, you need to recognize the subtle, often overlooked behaviors that can chip away at your mental and emotional health. In this video, we're going to uncover the truth behind 6 common yet dangerous personality types that you might encounter every day. People who, without you even realizing it, could be manipulating, criticizing, or draining you emotionally. Whether it's the master of illusion, the constant critic, or the person who seems friendly on the surface but hides deception underneath, these individuals can wreak havoc on your life if you're not careful. We'll take a deep dive into how to spot these behaviors and, more importantly, how to protect yourself from their negative impact. So, stick around and avoid falling into the trap of these toxic dynamics that might already be affecting you without your knowledge. Let's begin. Number 1. The manipulative individual. Masters of illusion and deception. Manipulation is one of the most damaging forms of betrayal. And manipulators are masters of illusion. They are skilled at making you believe they are on your side, but in reality, they are only using you to achieve their own ends. Trusting them is like handing someone a pen to draw your portrait, only to discover later that they've sketched a distorted image that serves their own narrative. They weave a web of charm, painting themselves as your ally, your confidant. But behind that mask lies a different agenda, one that doesn't have your best interests at heart. Think back for a moment. Have you ever known someone who made everything seem just a little too good to be true? Maybe it was the co-worker who always seemed to have your back, the friend who knew exactly how to get you on their side, or even the partner who made you feel like you were the center of their world, until suddenly you weren't. It's a tough pill to swallow, realizing that someone has been using you, and it can make you question your own judgment. But remember this, manipulators thrive on your self-doubt. They want you to second-guess yourself, to think that maybe you're the problem. But you're not. Manipulators are often incredibly charming. They know how to tell you what you want to hear, to make you feel good in the moment, but their charm is superficial. Underneath it all, they are calculating, always planning their next move, and you're just a pawn in their game. They twist stories, change facts, and leave you feeling confused, wondering where you went wrong. But it's not about you, it's about them. They crave control, and they will go to great lengths to maintain it, even if it means manipulating those closest to them. Have you ever felt that deep pit in your stomach when you realize you've been played? That moment of sudden clarity where everything clicks and you see the manipulator for who they really are. It's a painful realization, but it's also an important one. It's the moment where you can begin to reclaim your power, to take back control of your life. You don't need to live in their shadow, always second-guessing your worth. You have the strength to step away, to break free from their hold. Imagine a time when you were a child, maybe playing in the park, or at a family gathering. Do you remember that one kid who always wanted to be the leader, who would coax you into doing things you didn't want to do? They would say, "If you were really my friend, you'd do this for me," making you feel like you had to prove your loyalty. That's manipulation in its most basic form, and it's no different when we grow up. Manipulators still play the same game. They just get better at hiding it. But here's the thing. Just because someone is good at manipulating doesn't mean you have to fall for it. You can choose to walk away. So how do you protect yourself from these master illusionists? By trusting your gut. Pay attention to those nagging feelings when something doesn't quite add up. Watch for the red flags. Are they constantly changing their story? Do they play the victim whenever things don't go their way? Are they quick to make promises but slow to keep them? These are signs that you're dealing with a manipulator, and it's time to take a step back. Your emotional well-being is worth far more than the temporary charm they offer. Remember, you are the artist of your own life, and no one else should hold the brush. Don't let a manipulator rewrite your story. It's time to take control, to recognize the illusion for what it is, and to move forward with clarity and confidence. Number 2, the constant critic, navigating judgment and negativity. The constant critic is a tricky character. They position themselves as someone who's just trying to help, offering their constructive criticism, but their words are anything but helpful. Their comments are laced with judgment, and instead of lifting you up, they push you down. Trusting them is like pouring water into a cup with a hole in the bottom. You'll never be able to fill it no matter how hard you try. Have you ever known someone who always seemed to have something negative to say? No matter what you did, no matter how hard you tried, they always found fault in your efforts. Maybe it was a parent, a boss, or even a friend who never missed an opportunity to point out your mistakes. It's exhausting, isn't it? You find yourself constantly trying to prove yourself, to win their approval, but it never comes. That's because, for the constant critic, it's not about helping you improve. It's about keeping you in a place of self-doubt. Critics often mask their judgment as concern. They'll say things like, "I'm just telling you this for your own good," or, "You know I'm only saying this because I care." But let's be honest, it doesn't feel like care. It feels like judgment. It feels like someone constantly pointing out your flaws, reminding you of every little mistake, every misstep. And after a while you start to believe them. You start to think, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'll never be good enough. But here's the thing. They're not reflecting your worth. They're reflecting their own insecurities. Criticism is not inherently bad. In fact, constructive feedback can help us grow. But when the criticism is constant, when it's never balanced with encouragement or support, it becomes toxic. The constant critic is not interested in your growth. They are interested in maintaining their own sense of superiority. Their words are not about you. They're about them. They are projecting their own insecurities, their own fears onto you, and you don't have to accept it. Do you remember a time when you were a kid, maybe in school, when someone made fun of something you worked hard on? Maybe it was a drawing, a project, or even just answering a question in class. That sinking feeling of embarrassment, of wanting to disappear. That's what the constant critic wants you to feel, even as an adult. They want you to doubt yourself, to feel like you'll never measure up. But you don't have to live in that space. You are worthy just as you are, and no one else gets to define your value. It's natural to want approval, to seek validation from those around us. But when that approval comes at the cost of your self-worth, it's time to re-evaluate. The constant critic will never be satisfied, no matter what you do. So stop trying to win their approval. It's not worth the emotional toll it takes on you. Instead, focus on the voices that lift you up, that encourage you to be the best version of yourself, not the ones that constantly tear you down. The Stoics believed in the importance of inner peace, of maintaining a calm, steady mind, even in the face of adversity. When you encounter a constant critic, remember that their words are not a reflection of your worth. You are not obligated to carry the weight of their judgment. Instead, choose to protect your peace, to step away from their negativity, and to focus on the things that truly matter. You are more than their criticism, and you deserve to live a life free from their constant negativity. Number 3, the superficially friendly, avoiding shallow connections. We've all met someone like this, the person who's always cheerful, always asking how you're doing, but when the chips are down, they're nowhere to be found. They're the life of the party, the one who's always in the middle of every social gathering. But their friendship is as shallow as a puddle after a summer rainstorm. You think you have a connection, but when you really need them, they're just gone. At first glance, the superficially friendly person seems great. They're fun to be around, they make you laugh, and they always know what to say to make you feel good. But after a while, you start to notice something. Their kindness doesn't go very deep. They're quick to offer a smile, a joke, but when it comes to the tough stuff, When you're going through a hard time or you need a shoulder to cry on, they're not there. Their friendship is surface level, and it leaves you feeling empty. Think back to a time when you were going through something difficult. Maybe you had just lost a job, gone through a breakup, or were dealing with a family issue. Did you notice who was really there for you? Often, it's in these tough times that we see the difference between real friends and superficial ones. The superficially friendly person might send a quick text or give you a pat on the back, but they're not sticking around for the long haul. They're not the ones calling you late at night to check in or showing up at your door with a hug when you need it most. Let's take a moment to consider how deeply we connect with the people in our lives. Some relationships flow effortlessly with conversations that leave us feeling seen, heard, and understood. But not all connections are like that. In fact, many of us have dealt with people who seem utterly disconnected from the emotions of those around them, people who seem to move through life without ever truly listening or caring. These people can wreak havoc on our emotional well-being without even realizing it. Number 4, the inattentive listener, valuing genuine communication. Have you ever been in the middle of telling someone something important only to realize they're not really paying attention? Maybe they're scrolling through their phone, their eyes glazing over, or worse, they interrupt you with their own story, as if what you're saying doesn't even matter. It's frustrating, right? You walk away feeling like you weren't heard at all, like your words just bounced off them and fell into an empty space. This is the reality of dealing with an inattentive listener. The inattentive listener is someone who may seem engaged on the surface. They nod, they smile, they might even say all the right things. But deep down, they're not really there. They're more interested in waiting for their turn to speak than in actually absorbing what you're saying. They don't connect with the deeper meaning of your words because, to them, the conversation is more about appearance than connection. And over time, this lack of genuine engagement can leave you feeling isolated, as if your voice doesn't really matter. Think about a time when you were talking to someone you cared about, maybe a friend, a partner, or even a family member, about something that was weighing heavily on you. Maybe it was a moment of vulnerability where you opened up about your fears, your dreams, or something deeply personal. Now think about how they responded. Did they listen attentively, offering their full presence and understanding? Or did they seem distracted, giving you the impression that what you were saying wasn't important to them? Inattentive listeners can make us question the value of our own words. Over time, their disinterest can erode our confidence in our ability to communicate effectively. You might start to feel like you're talking to a brick wall, where no matter how much emotion or effort you put into expressing yourself, it just doesn't seem to get through. And that's exhausting. Genuine communication requires both parties to be fully present, to truly listen with the intention of understanding, not just responding. Now, take a moment to remember a different time, perhaps during your childhood, when someone listened to you with their full attention. Maybe it was a teacher, a grandparent, or a close friend. How did it feel to have someone fully engaged in what you were saying? They weren't interrupting. They weren't distracted. They were there, truly listening. That kind of connection feels rare these days, but it's what we all need to feel validated and understood. In a world full of distractions, true listening has become a lost art. We live in an age where attention spans are short and multitasking is the norm. But when it comes to relationships, whether they're personal or professional, listening is one of the most powerful gifts we can offer each other. It's how we show that we care, that we value the other person's perspective and emotions. Without it, communication becomes shallow, leaving both parties unsatisfied. If you've ever felt dismissed by an inattentive listener, you're not alone. It's an unfortunate reality that many people struggle with truly being present in conversations. But the good news is that you can choose to surround yourself with those who value genuine communication, those who will give you the space to express yourself without judgment or distraction. And when you find those people, Hold on to them because they're the ones who will enrich your life with meaningful conversations that leave you feeling understood. Number 5, the empathy lacking individual, protecting yourself from emotional harm. We all know someone who just doesn't seem to get it when it comes to emotions. You could be pouring your heart out, sharing your pain, your struggles, and instead of offering comfort, they respond with indifference or even irritation. It's as if they're completely detached from what you're feeling, unable or unwilling to offer any kind of emotional support. This is the empathy-lacking individual, and dealing with them can be both confusing and hurtful. These individuals aren't necessarily bad people. They just have a hard time connecting on an emotional level. It's not that they don't care, they just don't know how to express it. But that lack of empathy can still cause significant emotional harm, especially if you're someone who values deep, meaningful connections. When you're in pain, the last thing you want is to feel like your emotions are being dismissed or minimized. You need someone who can validate your experience, who can say, "I understand, and I'm here for you." Have you ever shared something deeply personal with someone, only to be met with a blank stare or a dismissive comment? Maybe you were grieving the loss of a loved one, going through a difficult breakup, or struggling with anxiety. You opened up, hoping for comfort, but instead, you were met with cold indifference. It's a deeply isolating feeling, and it can make you question whether your emotions are even valid. The empathy-lacking individual often fails to see the impact of their words and actions. They may give practical advice when all you need is a shoulder to cry on, or they might make flippant remarks that completely miss the emotional gravity of the situation. While their intentions might not be malicious, the result is the same. You feel unsupported and alone. Remember a time when you were comforted by someone who truly understood your pain. Maybe it was a parent who held you as you cried, a friend who listened without judgment, or even a stranger who offered a kind word at the right moment. That feeling of being understood, of knowing that someone truly gets it, is something we all crave. It's what makes us feel connected, seen, and valued. Unfortunately, not everyone is capable of offering that kind of empathy. For those who lack it, emotional connections can feel shallow or transactional. They may not understand why you're upset, or they may try to fix the problem without acknowledging the feelings behind it. This can leave you feeling even more isolated, as if your emotions don't matter. But here's the thing, you don't have to rely on someone else's empathy to validate your emotions. You are entitled to feel what you feel, regardless of whether or not someone else understands it. And while it's important to seek out relationships that offer emotional support, it's also important to recognize when someone simply isn't capable of providing that. Protecting yourself from emotional harm means setting boundaries with those who lack empathy. You don't have to cut them out of your life completely, but you do need to manage your expectations. Understand that they may not be able to offer the emotional support you need, and seek that support elsewhere, from friends, family, or even a therapist who can provide the understanding and validation you deserve. Number 6, the two-faced and toxic individuals, cutting ties with deceit and negativity. There's nothing quite as painful as realizing that someone you trusted has been speaking ill of you behind your back. It's a betrayal that cuts deep, leaving you questioning your judgment and wondering how you could have been so blind to their true nature. The two-faced individual is a master of deception, presenting one version of themselves to you and a completely different one to others. They play both sides, stirring the pot and creating drama, all while maintaining the appearance of innocence. Have you ever had a friend who seemed incredibly supportive to your face, but you later found out they were gossiping about you behind your back? Maybe it was a co-worker who acted like they were your ally in meetings, but behind closed doors, they were undermining your work. Or perhaps It was a family member who pretended to have your best interests at heart, only to turn around and spread lies about you to others. It's a gut-wrenching experience, and it can make you feel like you can't trust anyone. The two-faced individual is often charming and likable on the surface, which is what makes their betrayal so difficult to see coming. They know how to make you feel like you're special, like you're in on their secrets. But the truth is, they're playing the same game with everyone else. They thrive on stirring up drama, pitting people against each other, and watching the chaos unfold from the sidelines. Navigating the complexities of human interactions can feel like a minefield. But with the insights we've discussed today, you're now better equipped to recognize the subtle signs of manipulation, criticism, and shallow connections. Protecting your mental and emotional health starts with identifying the people who don't deserve your trust and respect. By distancing yourself from these toxic individuals, you're making a powerful choice for your own peace of mind and personal growth. Remember, your life is too valuable to waste on those who don't uplift or support you. Drop 100 if you've made it this far. This shows you're part of the rare 0.01% who finish what they start, and that's something to be proud of. If you're truly serious about transforming your life and building stronger, healthier relationships, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join our community. Together, we can keep growing and protecting the space we've worked so hard to create.